On May 27th, the First Nations community was shaken when the remains of 215 First Nations children were found in unmarked graves on what was once a residential school in Kamloops, BC. Some of the children were as young as 3 years old. These are the voices of our First Nations, pained by the loss, frustrated by systemic racism and oppression, and the stories of survivors who lived through horrific conditions at these schools. The news of these lost children pained leading Earthman Elder Dr. Dave Courchene of the Turtle Lodge International Center for Indigenous Education and Wellness. He now turns his attention to the children of today and tomorrow and asks what sort of world we will leave for them.
And I think, that was the most difficult part for me personally, and I'm sure others, that it hurt to hear the story of the uncovering of these 215 children, because I know we all love our children, and I know we all do. It has nothing to do with, with the diversity of humanity, but as parents or aunties, uncles, or grandparents, we love our children. So anyone with a heart, I think, would have felt the pain that many Indigenous people who were the relatives of those, that had to go through that experience. And we have a way of life, that helps in the grieving process. And I think that's what's important here is for those, to remember amongst our own that we have ways and means, for ceremony to deal with the grieving. And I met with the National Group of Elders a couple of days ago, and they've called for a day of prayer on Sunday, to be able to lift the pipes and, to help share in the grieving of our relatives, and more, and just as important, to remember of the children today that have not had that opportunity to learn about their identity. And there's been many of them. Today we see so many children, that have gone into foster care. And many people have made reference that it's just a repeat of the boarding school, situation. So we have a lot of work to do, and I know that, as spiritual leaders of our people, we tell our people we have to start taking responsibility again. We've got to break out of the state of dependency that's been created by government, that we have to take full responsibility for our children. We have to take full responsibility, for a way of life that we need to share with the rest of our relatives, that have arrived on our homeland. And I know that these challenges out there are great. There's a lot of challenges, and it's going to require people, that can find the courage to be able to set aside the differences and say, we're going to have to think of the children here. What legacy do we leave our children? What footprint do we leave them? Do we leave them a footprint that they can have a future? And from what I'm seeing, is that we're spending the inheritance of our children if we continue to exploit the land to the extent that it's being exploited, with the minerals, the forest, the gold, everything, all of that, and then it's always at the expense of the ones that are most vulnerable are the children. It's always to be the children that suffer the most because of adults make these decisions, which I think many times are somewhat selfish decisions. And, we've arrived in a time of great change, but also a time of great opportunity to change. It's going to require human change. We talk about climate change, but I think we're going to have to change